How's it going? Time's up. Time's up. Time to cook. I've been exercising. I'm doing dinner and all that kind of stuff. So next time, I say that every time. Let's get cooking. Today we're going to continue something we've been working on, I think last Saturday, which is my take is that all you need is kind of an MCP that does eval, right? There's this paper called Voyager, came out a few years ago, where they basically have the LLM play Minecraft. And as it goes and uses all these tools in Minecraft, it actually is able to build new tools by writing Python and then use those. So instead of using like the axe tool, it will create a tool that's called a kill zombie after it has encountered a zombie. And that way that allows it to grow, build better tool, basically be more successful. And as we all know, LLMs are great at writing code. They're pretty good at calling tools now, but writing code has been like really one of the major forces, and they can write like a lot of code. And if you compare that to an MCP call, for example, if you have an MCP call to query your database to get like your contact information, right? Like you have a tool that's called get contacts and like a tool that called search contacts. And you're like, oh, I want to call Annie. The LLM is going to call the search contacts tool. We're going to say like, oh, search all the contacts that have Annie in them. And like, too bad, you have like 10 Annies. So you're going to get a whole list of info, like addresses, like whatever you need, but you just want the phone number and, you know, maybe the photo or something like that. So the problem is with the LLM doing a tool call is that you have to stream all these tokens back, because at that point you don't really know what you're searching for, right? And then the LLM has to decide, oh, well, like now I have all this, like I have these like 5,000 tokens of info. Now I have what I need, which is, you know, they're probabilistic. So there's a good chance that it might work. There's a good chance that it might not work. There's a good chance that maybe the Annie you're looking for is not even in there, but the LLM will decide for you. And so like, cool, like I'm agreeable. So I'm going to give you an answer, even if there's none. However, if you want to say, have a little application, which you can type Annie in, or maybe Annie is pre-populated, and then it shows you like the contacts immediately, right? Like a real contacts application. And then you see the images, it goes like super fast. You can just like click on it. It's just like you were lazy and you were kind of like wanted to look that up. Now LLM can actually do that pretty well. And it can actually do that much better probably than if you were looking for, yeah, exactly. It's a code use tool, right? And so as Jan is saying, it's a code use tool, but it's also like a code define tool, because the LLM at the beginning doesn't know I'm like interested in contacts, for example. But as I do more and more with contacts, it's maybe not the best example, right? But like say a company CRM, you're going to like give me the information for this company and then for this company and where they're in, and like, can you make a dashboard? And if the only tool you have is get company info and get companies, then you're going to waste 20 tool calls. You're going to have like a gazillion tokens in your context window. Your conversation's going to be over. It's going to start like degrading in the context window. And you don't even have like a good dashboard of what the company revenue is. But if you look at it as like, say, a SQL query, right? Like you probably have a SQL query that's like 100 tokens long, and then that's just like fast, and you don't even need an LLM after that to execute it, except the way we currently have interfaces like say Claude AI, Claude Desktop, ChatGPT Desktop, even Cursor and Co. Cursors, right, like IDEs that have an agent in them are a little bit different because they allow you to write files and then kind of do stuff on the side and, you know, build a program as you go. But they're not necessarily pleasant to use, or they're definitely not like geared towards being an application surface and being like a desktop chat application. And what I've been building is, let's build an MCP that has only eval, but let's give it like a JavaScript sandbox that allows it to like register web pages, web handlers, and then basically as you go, it also has like a database connection. As you go, we're basically, all right, sorry, excuse me. I've got, as you go, build up an application and we'll be able to save it, and then you can reuse the application without using the LLM. But if you want to use the LLM, it's still there, right? Like if you have a query that's not like apparent, or you want to do something that's not apparent in the UI, you can still like go into chat mode and be like, yeah, can you XYZ? So we started building that, and it was like kind of okay. It was going somewhere. I think it was last Saturday. I don't remember. But one thing I started realizing is like maybe I should walk people through and then even like just see if my stuff even works still. So that's what we're going to do. Let's switch to the code view. For some reason, my switcheroo buttons don't work. This is what we had. It's called JS Web Server. I put the GitHub info like somewhere over there. Yeah. And if you want to follow along, I don't know how interesting that is, because this is an experiment. I don't expect this to become necessarily a real thing, or maybe it will. Like, who knows? Most of my experiments are it's what I call like spaghetti projects. At this point, I think yesterday was maybe the highlight. Is just like I generated 40,000 lines of code, like 4 applications, and most of these just like more and more is just like end up going into the dump. Maybe not. Like for example, I struggle with my modem. I think it's like the company has a bug in the cable in the wall because I switched my cable, and so yesterday I was like, okay, well, I asked O3 what's going on. It told me a little bit about how cable modems work. And so I just took a screenshot and put it into AMP code and said like, can you make me like TUI that like parses this website? And it built me this little thing here, which now is running in the background. It's super slow because like they have like the shittiest website, but you can go in and you can see like the different channels, their value, if they're locked or not locked. And I don't fully know what this information is, but now I'm just going to log it. And I've built like so many of those. I like this one, LSOF who, which will tell me like who's listening on port 8080 and then allow me to kill it. It's pretty. Tons of little things. And this MCP.js server, you can tell it's like under experiments. I actually don't remember how it even works, which is fun. I will actually have to figure out how this works again. Let me zoom in just a tiny bit because I'm tired. I need, finally, I need like a little bit of a bigger font. And let's acquaint ourselves with how this was supposed to be working. And also today during the day, I kind of had like AMP code do stuff. So I don't even know if this is still like compiling. So it doesn't look like it's compiling, right? So let me see, what were we doing? Oh, I remember. It's like it was trying to do something and it was like, oh, this doesn't work. Let me replace everything with a simpler object. And I was like, don't do it. And also, I think I'm running into this bug that I have that I've been hunting down for forever, where the model AMP code is like getting its code overwritten by something. And I think it's Cursor. So we'll have to see what's going on here. Like you see there's like tons of edits that haven't gone through. This is usually the sign that something weird is happening. So I built a tool for that, right? And we're going to let this tool run on the side. See, there's my modem. We're going to let this tool run on the side just to maybe catch this elusive bug in the flesh. I suspect it's Cursor. I don't know if there's like much we can do to fix it, but we will still have a look at what it does. So this little tool here, yet another tool, what it does is it uses eBPF, which is the Berkeley packet filter, which is a way to hook into the Linux kernel, and it's going to look at all the reads and writes from files, log them, and actually send them over to a web server that runs, and that web server is going to run them to a WebSocket, and that will allow me to see all the reads and writes going on, and hopefully see if there's one process that like fucks with my AMP code. So you can see it has like a nice little UI here. And then if I do any kind of write in this directory, let me open this back up. Let me close this. Hey, why can't I close this? Oh my God. All right, so you can see it did like log a couple of writes to basically do these files. And so I want to see if there's any process that writes at the same time as AMP code to kind of see what it's doing. And maybe what we'll do is we're just gonna, because AMP code gets refreshed all the time, we're just gonna like reload the window anyway and see if we can rewind our AMP code discussion, get back, and hopefully I won't have to redo everything again. The thing that I was trying to do is this JavaScript sandbox that I'm building, right? It's a Go project, and I'm using the Goja JavaScript sandbox that is written in Go. And I'm trying to get it to use the Express.js API because that's like more something that models can deal with. And I think I'm just gonna have to like rewind all of this and just like try to go ahead again. And hopefully this issue with the writing, I kind of want to stay in Cursor because I do use the Cursor chat quite a bit. We'll have to see where we get to if we have to just switch to VS Code, do some more debugging. This has been haunting me for a week. Every time I think I got it and then I didn't, and it happens again. See, it's like it's already doing weird stuff here. Why is it not, it just literally read the file and then it's not able to apply the change. This is like a bad start. And I also don't see anything that's been happening here. So we'll see. We can see there's 1, 2, 3 processes. There's the same PID writing to this file. Let's see if it's struggling. It's currently not struggling. And what I'm doing here, what I'm asking it is to like, please emulate the Express.js API for the JavaScript API we're exposing to the LLM. And we are then loading this whole application as an MCP tool. And the MCP tool has a single tool, like the MCP server has a single tool that's called execute. And then the API says that you can register REST handlers, you can register like HTML pages, you can read the database. And I'm basically asking it to then build up the application as we go. And hopefully I'll get to a point where this is fairly robust tonight so that we can work on like more complicated parts of it, which is persisting the code that we write, right? Because I don't have an edit file tool. Maybe I'll build one. Oh, where am I going with this? It's been a long day. Hopefully we'll get this working. That's where I'm getting at. It seems that the writes are working, right? We can see that this process here is probably AMP code, and then we'll see where we get to. So we're going to run the server. I don't know what this actually does. Port already in use. I thought this was, what's the port on 8080? Who's running there now? Cursor's running there because Cursor's actually loading, I think, this MCP server, which is annoying because like Cursor seems to really like reloading its MCP servers differently. And this is the MCP.js server from last time. I don't know, it's random. Every time I restart Cursor, this is like differently configured. All right, so we're going to stop it here. And this is why I like Cursor at this point. It's like more interactive. So I don't want to have like AMP code try to do too much at once. What I want to do because I don't remember how this runs, what is this thing even doing? All right, so we do have a way to call the execute endpoint. I'm starting to remember how this all works. So let's have a look. We're going to go into the MCP labs. Let's go away here. And then we're going to go into command experiments JS web server. We're going to run this on port 8080 with a log level of debug. Unknown command server. We are running the server. If we go open a Firefox and we go to 8080, we have nothing, which is good too. And this is getting like completely unreadable, is it? Because we have so many little things to be running. What we're going to do now is we have this execute verb, right? If I launch this, we have execute, which allows me to execute JavaScript code. And I don't remember the arguments, but I think you can just give it a file or code. I don't know why it would take a file here. Test express.js, and this should be experimenting. This should be executing the code, which it registers the root successfully. We have get/API test, which we can now curl. So if we go to API test, we should get a error. So that's the first thing we should be checking in with is if we look at the source code of this test express, it is actually returning, trying to call JSON on this result, and it can't. So that points towards an error in the handlers of the internal engine. And we're going to have a little look at these things. So the thing that maybe we should do is run this server in the debugger, and that will allow us to debug a little bit more and actually also have AmpCode do some of the debugging, since it has all the tools it needs to be doing said thing. So I'm going to go into Cursor to not like just waste AmpCode credits, and I'm going to say add. Why does I not able to put this in here? All right, go run command experiments JS web server serve to launch JSON. And there's a cursor update, great. And hopefully we'll be able to, I think for tonight, my hope is to get like a solid Express.js API going in my sandbox, because I can imagine this being trickier than I think. I hope to get there today, but then this little bug really threw a wrench into my whole plans, right? Because it is, it's kryptonite for LLMs. If they think they wrote something on disk and they haven't, like all their stuff becomes mixed and they reread the file and it still doesn't apply it, and they're really confused and they start destroying everything else. So it really is a big problem, this bug. And that's why I put so much effort into being able to hunt it down, is being able to, we can see here, this process ID is Cursor, the 299803. And the other one here is AmpCode. And what I suspect is going to happen is that either the write doesn't go through at all and it gets caught. And I imagine that Cursor is catching writes so that it knows that a file has been modified and that is buggy. Or that Cursor, or maybe even like another VS Code extension, just like overwrites the file because it thinks it needs to be formatted or something. Like, that's my guess. I haven't been able to catch it in the wild. So if it happens today, I might actually be happy, because I might have something that I caught on record. However, We were going to check that the get handler here in our TestExpress.js, we have app-get, which is going to register a handler function, which is a Go value. We're going to go in here and we're going to see a little bit what's going on. So we're switching to the debugger view. We're launching the JS web server, and we're launching it with F5. And hopefully something happens. All right, it is running. It is calling register handler because why? Why is it calling that? Because engine run program, engine execute code. So it's executing some JavaScript code, which it's executing because it's loading the Bootstrap code, which is calling register handler, get, post, and those are the old handlers, it looks like. So we can see it's been loaded. We can check if we get /health, we should get a counter, right? Let's see if that's true. Let me open the Firefox here, and then if we go to /health, we should get a counter, which we don't. Request completed on /health returns OK, true counter, global state counter. So that is already weird. If we go to our network calls, we get /health and the response is empty. Okay. So that is interesting and maybe already something we should be looking at. So how does this register handler stuff work? We're here, we have register handler. It has a Goja value, which is a handler. And the problem, of course, is that we can't debug the JavaScript, right? However, we do have access to the routers and to the dispatchers. And that's something, I've never looked at this code, so I'm discovering it at the same time as you do. And I wonder why these things are unused. That's weird too. So we're gonna look at write response object, which doesn't seem to be used either. That is all very obscure. That is all very obscure, that these things that are similar, seemingly used. I wonder if I should just like revert everything and just start adding the Express.js code from scratch. But we'll see. Like, I'm just going to start implementing all of this. And then hopefully we hit it on status. What's the status? We have code. We have execute handler. We have here an execute handler. That seems like an interesting thing to look at. And then if the object wasn't sent, send a default response. And the handler here was this thing that just returns an object, right? So let's see. The first thing we're going to do is in the main engine, which is where the Bootstrap code was, we're going to say like update this to use the Express.js API, C API JavaScript. Do we have a document, JavaScript developer guide, which is like kind of a developer guide for how this JavaScript stuff works here. So this is a little bit minutia, and the thing that is really bugging me is that basically AmpCode was like thrown a wrench into its workings, and I might have messed up stuff that I've never looked at, so I actually don't know if it's bad or good. So the fallacies of vibe coding, and what I would suggest doing, and when you have the fallacies of web coding, it's at some point where you like, this is like too weird to LLM slop to I don't know what's going on is just like start from scratch, right? It's like you got a better idea, you have a lot of code that you can salvage into a good working documentation, or you can just delete the code, keep the specs, keep the documentation you wrote, keep the test examples that look good, right? Because this is how I want to write things. So this is valuable, right? No need to recreate all of this and start from scratch. This is kind of how I want things to be. And now I can restart the server and we can redo the query. So we have register handler again from the top. I wonder if there's a way for us to more easily interact with the JavaScript stuff, to just see the JavaScript code and store it alongside with the objects, because we do want to reload the JavaScript code later on. And as we do this, the register handler code is being called by Goja, but is ultimately originally coming from execute code run string. And I think run string is something in the Goja runtime. But here we have the code as a string, and we could potentially save it somewhere. I don't know if we can. I will have to look. And actually, since is something we have to look for, I'm going to use my trusted old friend O3/deep research to start to figure out that stuff for me. I'm using Goja and Golang, and I want to better trace the JavaScript code itself. For example, linking back errors and values to the source code itself. What possibilities does Goja itself give me to deal with the JS source code, AST, etc., where a function is defined, where a value comes from, like that kind of stuff. In the meantime, we are here. We have the JavaScript call, which, I don't want to learn too much about this just now, but I think in the future, I used to know Goja pretty well, and now I forgot everything. But we'll see. We'll see how far we get. We have a handler, which is like, an object. How can I like visualize this? How can I log it? I don't know. I want to like learn more about how to look at the Goja value, what the arguments here exactly are. And what we're going to do here, so apparently there's optional options for the register handler call. We then do look at there's no content type from the options, which I guess we don't need anymore because we're doing this like REST JS kind of style, which is weird because this code was not using register handler anymore, right? It was using app-get. And app-get has been registered as, that's very weird. Show 2 more stack frames. And if we go back over there to the code and init our file bootstrap.js, the execute code, the data is initialize global counter, if global counter, blah, 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 console log bootstrap, and then we have app-get. App-get. It isn't handlers, right? But, oh, and this one calls register handler with the handler, which might not be the best idea. I don't know. We're going to put some breakpoints a little bit everywhere in here. And then app use registers middlewares. Sure, why not? And as we continue going through register, we have the path pattern is slash. All of this seems pretty good. The content type is not set. That's kind of a leftover, the content type. Which is the handler info, which I don't think we need anymore, right? So we're just going to put in, I don't think we need the content type and options here anymore since everything goes through app get. Okay. So we're called again, this time to register /health, right? Again, no content type, no options. We just like store that under the path pattern, store that as the options, store that under a list of handlers, and then we get back. The third one is the charm. We now have register handler. I'm going to start again because I changed the source code so the line numbers don't align anymore. And if I now call this endpoint localhost 8080 health, we should again end up in execute handler. And job eval job is interesting. So where does that come from? We do have process job, we have engine, we have start dispatcher. This looks weird. JavaScript dispatcher. It goes over the jobs. What is a job? What is a job? It's a channel. And then you submit a job onto this channel, and then that gets run in a single thread, because I think everything in the Goja VM has to run in the same thread. So the submit job comes from the, I think from the caller, and then in process job, the eval job that we have, process job, we do have an eval job which has a handler info, right, which is the path pattern /health. It doesn't have the code, so it's funny. In the handler info, we can actually store the code, it looks like, which is actually pretty cool. It's in the engine handler info of Goja. Interesting. So this is where we could register the code, right? Register handler. And then we have handler info, and this has a field code. No. It's because the handler here is an engine handler info, which is, where is eval job defined? It's eval job is defined here. It has a, oh, eval job has the code to execute. Okay. All right, so we create a request, express request object, which is like a fake, not a fake object, but it's an object that's registered to JavaScript to present as a express request object. It has a method, it has a URL, it has a path and all of that, but it's a Go struct, right? And so we also have a result object. And if we look at those, they're both structs. And the first one, the request object, has get /health, has all the headers in there, has a source IP, has all kinds of cool stuff. And then the response currently has nothing. It has a status code, it has a writer, it has a JavaScript engine that can be used, and then it's not sent. So that's where we're at now. We have one option, which is the path pattern, and then we call the JavaScript handler function with the request object and the response object. And I'm curious about the express request object. If we look at the code that we're currently executing, it's not doing anything with the request. However, it's calling the JSON method on the response. And I think if we go to express response and we have our JSON call, that this is the call that it's going to do. We'll see if that is true. If that works, this is what should happen now. But it's, however, it's calling status, which is odd to say the least, right? It's going to call the handler, and the handler doesn't call the JSON method at all, it seems. Which is odd. So I wonder if we can add some logging on the JavaScript side to make sure that the JavaScript code is actually executed at all. We also have a value that comes back. And since we're here, let's go look up Goja, which is not Amazon Businesses. It's going to be features, weak map. What can we do? JSON parse, implement, and we have a value, export. Okay, so we can potentially, if we have the value here, log debug, and instead of v, it's going to be v export. All right, so this is the handler execution result, which in our case, the JSON method wasn't called at all, right? So that is interesting. How do we register a Go object to Goja? That's the thing that I'm wondering. Here it's lowercase JSON and our method is uppercase JSON. And how is that all handled? This is the engine. Where is our eval job? Where's our JSON method defined? Oh, I saw it like not long ago, didn't I? There it is. So how is express response registered to Goja? And this is where I'm going to use cursor again, which is how is express response, express request registered to the Goja runtime? It seems that res.json, for example, is not being called. And in the meantime, we're also going to say C JavaScript developer guide and add logging to the JS in engine.go to help us get this going. I'm pretty tired. This whole streaming at 8 p.m., I don't know if that's like the best idea I ever had in my life. Since I've already been like pretty much programming nonstop from like 7 a.m. So we'll see. So interesting. I'm not sure how much using Sonnet 4 is like the best idea for doing this kind of exploration. Because I wonder if we should also just like make a nice documentation here on how to register different different functionality for Goja. And I'm sure I already did at some point in the past because I've been working with this quite a bit. So let me see if I find something that's just called Goja. Goja doc from December. Let's see. Yeah, this is maybe not the worst reference documentation here. How are we going to integrate it? We're going to take it and we're going to copy it into go MCP under the current date. So ttemp 25/25/19, and there we go. So it's going to delete the file test express and create a clean one. What is it doing? Okay, so it wants to bootstrap with Test Express. So maybe the bootstrap code in engine.go can go. No, I'm going to say like update the code in engine.go. Okay, why not in there? But also I want the JavaScript code. Also the JS code. And I wonder if I should like, I'm definitely in the weeds here because I know that the stuff that I did today destroyed the code base most certainly. I don't want to revert. I don't remember what we did last week really. And I'm doing some pretty funky surgery, I think, on a complicated application at the end of the day, right? Like we have a JavaScript sandbox. I forgot everything about how that JavaScript API sandbox works. So we're really like in a territory where I'm not confident at all about what I'm doing. And those are also the moments where I learn the most, I feel, about how to program with LLMs. It's like it gives me a sense of how far I can push things to stay in a zone right that pushes my boundaries as a developer. If I was only like staying with stuff that I'm comfortable with, that I know how to bang out, I will never do the interesting things that I'm actually interested in doing. So I'm pushing the boundaries pretty much here, and it might make sense to be pushing it so far where I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Now I know what I actually need to learn, because if it was just working, I would just like continue until I hit that point, right? Where I'm like, okay, well, this was too far. This was too much. And these kinds of things are, the surprising thing is that this compiles. It seems to be doing a little bit of what I want. It was working pretty well last week. That's already a significant jump from where we were like just 6 months ago, where I just couldn't vibe my way that far. I couldn't vibe my way into spaghetti world at all. It would just like wouldn't compile. It was using the wrong APIs. The stuff would crash. So it has already significantly changed. It's still like, oh, I can't just like wave my hand and say like, can you build this like REST Express.js API, and then at the same time have a bug that destroys all the files and come out safe. So I'm also going to say also the JS code. I'm, however, running the app through the debugger. So just stop when done. The fuck? No, but like, oh my god, it's this. It's not understanding what I mean. All right, so it added really like a shit ton of logging, which is fun. Do we have the logging enabled in our launch JSON? Launch JS web server, log level debug. Okay, that's cool. What is it doing? Sonnet, what are you doing? Sonnet, what the fuck? Why do you always need to make like a special sauce out of all of this stuff? Yeah, I'm. This is the weird Sonnet stuff. Focus on debug console view and accept changes. Man, I'm irritable tonight. That is, I think this is like the cramped screen really irritates me. So why is this not running anymore? So it's hitting this. It's, however, not initialize file name bootstrap.js. If it doesn't exist, so now it loads bootstrap.js, gets the data, and then bootstrap.js contains the old code. Okay. So bootstrap.js should just be this. All right, let's try again. Bootstrap.js, now it doesn't hit anything in the execute code. App-get method exists, app object exists, JavaScript code executed successfully. Very weird. So does it even execute the console? JS console log. Hopefully it will execute that, right? It's initializing everything here. And then we do get JS bootstrap complete, JS foobar, JS console log, so that's cool. So it's definitely executing that, but it's not hitting the breakpoints that I thought I set in app-get. Or I guess that, oh, I deleted the breakpoints that I had in my old stuff. So let's delete also all the deprecated code from our previous API. And then create HTTP cookie. Is that used? No, where's that not used? All right, anyway. Write legacy response. Also something we don't need. All right. Let's start again. We should hit into register handler now. Net URL imported and not used. All right. Register handler, an app get, register handler. And then I guess we can do execute handler after that, right? So execute handler would be just like hitting that thing, localhost on health, which we're hitting here in the submit job. That's great. The submit job comes from the, where we're at, handle dynamic route, checks if we have a handler for this method for this path, and we submit it. We wait for the completion. And the interesting thing, we pass the writer to the evaluation job, and then we submit it. So all of that is pretty neat. That works. And actually, let me keep that here. We go to execute handler. We have a handler that we got carried over. We create our express request object or request response object, which is here. We don't need the parse and the bool param. And we have JS response JSON. I don't know, are those used anywhere? Okay, this response, legacy response helper shortcut for backwards compatibility. This is something I don't like about AMP code, or maybe it's Sonnet, is like all that complexity added for legacy when I actually told it that I want to get rid of that code. So those now are not used. And then JS response text is not used either. And JS response HTML is not used. And JS response redirect and JS response error. All of that stuff is like kind of moot now. Which, however, gets us at the create express request object. And how is this express object registered to JavaScript? Is it purely through to JSON and the methods? That is very interesting. And what I would suggest doing is go to Bootstrap.js and then just say console log request rec, and then the response. Do the same thing here. Then maybe console log rest JSON, and then just kind of see where this gets us, right? Failed to load because we deleted too much. No, we deleted and now stuff is gone. All right. In a way, maybe, you know, like a good way to do this, if I was like going for success, I would probably read about Goja in detail and I would start from scratch. Also, I'm a gambler, so I'm not going to do that. However, I will do a deep research for me tomorrow. I will put this source code into O3. I will say like, oh, tell me like all the things that I should do. Actually, let's do that right now, right? It's, I'm going to go into MCP to my experiments with the JS web server. And I know that I have the Markdown JavaScript developer guide and the server architecture, right? If we look at, say, the JavaScript developer guide, it gives us like a ton of like little examples. So that's like maybe less interesting for us to look at. However, if we look at the server architecture thing in the docs, that should give us a good overview of what we're actually trying to build. And if I attach the source code with that, then I will be able to ask O3 to give me like a full book about using Goja to build this. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use PCP, which is my Pinocchio Catter print. We're going to use archive file, and we're going to say like Goja zip. We're going to take docs server architecture, docs JavaScript guide, and what else do we have in here? Find.name go. And if we look at the resulting file, yeah, we kind of have like actually we're going to take Go and then we're going to take the JS stuff as well. And I'm going to go to O3. I'm going to go here. I want to build this application using Goja and Golang. However, I need a full course about how to use Goja to do this. Please analyze the attached documents and make a syllabus. Plus sketch out the lecture's contents. And I'm just going to attach this file. And so you'll see if I just pasted the source in, it would say like, oh, that's too much. But if I paste it in here, it's going to be able to use tool calls to unzip it, to look at different things and kind of do a little bit more without, oddly enough, wasting its context window. So that's one of my tricks these days. Once I have then the syllabus, right, like then I'll turn deep research on and I'll say like, please look and give me that. And then I'll print it out, read it tomorrow at breakfast, and then I'll probably be well on my way to write this professionally, right? And I'll probably, once I understand better what the current code is, what whatever the architecture document is because I vibed it on Saturday. I don't. Um, then I'll probably be well set to vibe it again from scratch, right? And I think that's something that's kind of a new modality of writing code. Like I would do it quite a bit with prototype, where write if I had like something complex to build, I would try to do a whole self-contained kind of mocked prototype of the core algorithm. Say of like Kubernetes, you can write Kubernetes in 100 lines of code if you want to have like a prototype of the whole system, and then start to experiment with this to slowly uncover like things that might be missing that you might not know, or just like get a sense of what APIs look like or so, right? And in a way, this looks like finished software, but actually it could be this like back of the envelope sketch that I will throw away once it has served its purpose of examining a problem. And so that's why I'm not giving up now. I'm just be like, okay, well, is there more I can squeeze out of where we're at currently? Just going to think with the debugger will tell me like a little bit more about what is possible. The fact that the LLM gets so far is like really impressive to me, not even grounded with Goja documentation. That 100% wasn't possible with 3.5, right? So that is really encouraging, because it means, okay, well, if you actually know how Goja works, then a couple of words will steer the LLM correctly. I don't need to, as previously, where if I know what I want, I still have to fight the LLM, because the LLM won't be able to generate stuff that actually compiles or so. So we're extracting, there's no content type. So this is us tracing this like health thing. And no, wait, are we in register handler? Oh yeah, we're in register handler. So this is called 3 times. I guess we don't need to breakpoint and register handler all that much, to be honest. And then if I call health, we are now in submit job, that's fine. And then we're in execute handler, we get the handler function, we get the path, the method, we create these objects, I guess I could dump it. We'll look at the path pattern, we parse the params, so our request object now has, I guess 0 params because there's nothing in there. We convert that to Goja values and log their type. So it's this RT to value. And if the object is a struct, all right, so what did it log here? It logged an object, okay, which is interesting, but not surprising that like the string value here would be funny. I guess we could call JSON stringify here, right? So that would be interesting to see if use the JS JSON stringify on res rec before printing them out in Go side. And then I'm just going to select this. Not just the to value which outputs object. So I'm kind of talking to it like a person, which I'm not my usual style of prompting. But in this case, I don't know. I feel like it. It also will tell me a little bit more about how this thing works. Sonnet 4, especially in Cursor, in Amcode, it's much better at being like more on Rails, but then Amcode is like, to me, feels like, oh, it's something you fire off and then let it go. I don't know if it's like such a conversational thing. I could just like try it as well. So I'm going to accept it. I'm just going to tell it to not build. So if I reload, and this was an interesting breakpoint, it now is not able to build it because it has an issue with engine.go, where, man, this screen is driving me wild. call JSON stringify for printing stringify JS value. Is that new? Yeah, okay. So we should have actually run this. Run it. Oh no, build it again. Okay, now it sees the linter error. Fun. Okay, cool. So let's go. Starting the server. Error in input stream. What did it think? The user wants a full course, blah, 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 analyze. The zip file contains various documents. Okay. I don't know why it has to redo everything, but let's try the health again. So we are now submitting the job. We are building our objects and we're printing them out in the debug log. And so now, okay, so this is cool, right? We can see that the request object is actually being serialized on the JavaScript side to something pretty decent. We get like a shit ton of cookies. That's fine. We get all the headers. So this looks promising already. It looks like the JavaScript side has something to chew on. The question is, can it do, like, can it call .json on it? And so now it's going to do request result.json is null, which to me indicates that it probably just like doesn't know how to call .json. And maybe that's something we can do in here is like if we look at Bootstrap JS, right? Res.json, which is the express result, does not provide .json, right? Because we do have this. Copy and here, and now I'm going to tell it to use the web. Use the web to figure out how to properly register structs to Goja, or look at 01 Goja, which is the document we copied over before. So it has built our syllabus, right, which we'll look at. So it's going to say Goja 101, run main.go and execute examples, the exif script, patch eval job to add per script CPU timeouts. This O3 is so cryptic. Like, what does this mean? All right, lecture sketches, bytecode versus AST walk, why Goja is purely AST walk, execution model, single Go routine per script versus worker pool, bridging worlds. Okay, cool. So it's already again. So now we're just going to say like, write the full course handbook. Senior engineers, yes, full. 3, no. Only plugins directly related to debugging Goja code. What format are you? Markdown. Use the GitHub Goja extensively to look up how it is really implemented. All right. It's building it. It's setting, it's setting a field name mapper to convert the Go file names to JavaScript. Okay, so that was maybe, you know, the missing section, which is the uncap field name mapper. What does the uncap field name mapper? That uncapitalizes struct fields and method names, making the first letter lowercase, but not the rest. Right? Tag field that uses the given tag name for struct fields and optionally uncapitalizes method names. The common tag value syntax is supported. However, options are ignored. So it's more like the tag field manager is like what we would want, right? And maybe that's the default. So I think the JSON uppercase entirely is like not is the issue here. So if I'm correct here, we should have the option. So if we do some more like logging, we can have this, for example, right? And that's what I worry is like, or like not worry is like, if we figure it out, then that's cool. We'll figure it out. That's what I suppose is happening right here. It's calling the handler and it's going to tell us JSON is null, this JSON is null, and then the function, so the last one with the J underscore uppercase SON is like where it's at. And I suspect that this was actually not even needed because per default it was doing the right thing. It's just this like uppercase mapping that was like breaking it. And to confirm that, we're going to run this again and we can see here it actually doesn't lowercase the J, it uses the uppercase version of it. And so here we do have the map with accept the request. So if we go back to the Bootstrap.js, we're going to do the request and then we're going to do JSON stringify the request. And then we're going to do the same thing here, which is stringify the response. And we saw that it's uppercase JSON, which led to the issue. I wonder if this like uncapped field name mapper, right? If we go to this express, where is even the express part? I always forget. It's in handlers.go. Okay, express response, because here we have field names. Like, for example, I wonder like what status code is going to be like. So this is the response object, and we're going to console log res status code. And then we're going to do res status code, right? No. And we're going to see, so currently we have the default value, the default mapper, which we do have, it's with an uppercase S currently. So it's not even using the tag field mapper, right? So if we go to field name mapper, which is down here, we have the uncapped field mapper. We have the tag field mapper. The given tag name for struct fields and optionally uncapitalizes the first. So I think this is the kind of the one we want. Tag field name mapper. Tag name, JSON, uncapped methods, true. Okay, so this is perfect. And then what we need to do is in handlers, right, is like the JSON method of the response should actually be JS with lowercase son. So where are we at? Here. So this should be like that. So if we restart, now we should be able to get a proper response out of this guy. And we will see we have marshalling error, unsupported thing, and then we do get our JSON back. Very cool. So we're going to save because we now have a fair amount of info to go on. We're going to delete this logging code because we have figured out what's going on. And we're keeping the API correct. So we might actually be able to salvage all of this. So since this is a big mess, docs, examples, remove, what's the test express? Yeah, it like keeps recreating. So this is another issue with like agents and stuff like that, is like they're pretty bad at you know, file names and all that stuff. So they keep recreating files because they haven't found the other ones, and like there's like they create them in the wrong directory. So you very, very quickly end up having like, look at that. It like puts the examples in the root directories. Like there's JS server shit everywhere. And that's actually something to be a little bit careful about. And maybe I'll use this opportunity to kind of clean up the stuff that is going on in here, which is so that we don't, like, I don't get lost, but also so that the model doesn't get lost. So what we're going to do here is like sparkles at least some of the Express.js API works, right? And now that I'm a little bit more confident in this like stuff that we created, that I have a course on the way for tomorrow, maybe now is the time to start crunching with the agents, right? And so one of the first thing we can do crunching with agents, for example, is do this like cleanup, because Go has this like pretty strong linting culture. This is actually pretty nice because it allows us to like do a lot of cleanup. However, what I'm going to do before I clean this up is like, even though my Git hooks don't let me commit it, I'm going to commit it here, because these cleanup actions are also always like a little bit dangerous. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to say clean this up and push it in here, right? And so I'm going to say clean this up. Actually, the package.js server we can delete entirely. So let me go to git-rm.rf package.js server. That was like a different implementation that we tried. I'm going to remove examples.js web server. We're going to remove JS server in here. Remove this JS web server. Remove this. Because I generated like 4. 2 with Sonnet, 1 with O3, and then 1 with Gemini. And then I was like, the O3 one is like the best one. See, there's one other one here. And then I'm going to get the command, and we're going to remove the bootstrap. And this felt a little bit too long, so we're going to reset the SQLite before I commit it. All right. This, and we're also going to remove this. We're going to remove the play. Nah, whatever. All right, cool. So fire, remove all JS server. And then if we do make lint, this is going to give us like a shit ton of stuff. And that's exactly the stuff we want to fix, right? So fix these lint errors. And so finally we have an agent doing our work. And now we're going to be able to cook a little bit more with the agent, which is I am going to have it load one of these JavaScript files and just make sure that a lot of these features are actually working by having it do the curl calls as well. And only then will we actually start loading the MCP. But I realize that I am very tired and that I'm not very focused either. I've been building like such cool stuff today, but I can't really show it, I think. But it's so easy to build like monitoring tooling. Like Sonnet is just great at doing terminal UIs and with Charm Bracelet and doing like just web UIs self-contained with WebSocket. That's the stuff that was always a little bit tricky, the WebSocket stuff for Sonnet 3.7, Sonnet 3.5. It was always like kind of iffy on the side. And of course, that's the things that make you lose a lot of time, right? It's like when it's kind of not working, pretty much takes exactly the same amount of time as like it not working at all, and you have to like figure that out. When stuff is like reliably on Rails, so models getting better, it does make a big difference, even if like fixing it is not hard, right? Like even if the model is just like slightly next to broken. But also agents help a lot. I think even like worse models with like a good agent loop are very promising. The problem, of course, being like all these agents currently are like the context window management is it like fills up a conversation. So like these sub agents, or how people conceive of it as sub agents, are I think a promising path. I think it's a very limiting pattern of thinking about it, the same way that thinking of MCP as like the way for LLMs to interact with the rest of the world is very limiting. It stays like very much at the first level, which is like, oh, an LLM should be able to search the web, so we're going to give it like a search web tool, instead of saying like, no, let it paint the code that it needs to search the web. And if it decides to build a whole search engine, then sure, like let it, right? Because otherwise you just like restrict yourself to something that is just like, it's slow. It's just like a shitty interface, right? It's like, it's slow, it's not reliable, it like eats into the context window. It's just like not a good, and also it doesn't leverage the fact that LLMs are trained on a corpus, and like there's a ton of code of searching, and there's like much less code about extracting the results that you need in this one situation where you actually need the call. But there's like a lot of code on how to get stuff that looks like what you're interested in. So to make this a little bit clearer, right, you could take a list of prices from a catalog, paste it into the LLM, and select which one of these prices is an outlier. And it might be able to figure out that like one of them has like a bigger price or something, but it's like kind of janky, and it takes a lot of time to have the LLM do this, and you need like a bigger model because the small models will like be confused by the numbers. However, if you ask a small model, like write code that plots the distribution of the prices and take the highest two ones, very easy. Or even like write code to search for anomalies, also totally capable for a small model to be doing it. And then at the end, you have like code that's deterministic that you can run like 50,000 times over, right? Like if you have an agent loop, for example, you can have this thing like run many times before it starts having like the same amount of tokens that the usual response would have. And you can spin that off and then, you know, discard it until the tool, once the tool works, you discard it and you just say like, yeah, you built like a working tool. You're great. All right. So why is it struggling with the formatting? Why is it struggling with these? Right. Yeah. Check those values, man. Is it like maybe hitting this bug that we had where it's like saying like, oh, it looks like my edit didn't apply. Let me actually add that to the agent MD. Oh no, I had that. If it looks like your edits aren't being applied, then stop. Man, it's struggling to fix this stuff, isn't it? Like, look at that. We're at 50% context window. it's funny that here it seems like Sonnet is very like cautious and only fixes a couple of errors at once. Well, if you ask it to build features, it'll just like happily write 4,000 lines of features in one go without stopping. And you're like, whoa, what are you doing? Cool. All right. All right, we're going to fix the linting errors. So art fix linting errors. And now we're going to switch to agent mode, right? So I wonder if server architecture, the thing is that the JavaScript document manual is like pretty heavy token wise, I think. If I go to command experiments.js web server and I do clips, docs, JavaScript developer guide. Oh, it's not that much actually. All right, so we're going to switch to the agent and we're going to say, I'm going to restart our backend server. And man, what are you? Oh, it's because the shortcut is another one. So let's look at the example source code that we have in here, because we have examples. We have Netflix clone. So Netflix clone doesn't use the new syntax. Which ones use? This one uses the new syntax. I'm going to delete Netflix clone. Actually, why not? Keep it. No, I'm going to delete it. Practical patterns. Okay. And then quick start. Users, all of that. That works. Trivia game. Trivia game. That's old code. Trivia test. Old code. Get current state. Old code. All right, so that's a fair amount of cleanup. That's great. We have scripts that's okay. Those are like the scripts that get stored as you send things. Test scripts. MIME types, that's old. Test scripts. Pages, that's old. And utils, also old. Okay. And then I guess if we have test scripts API, yeah, that's old too. So let's remove all the test scripts. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to say we are running an instance of MCP.js server, C, server architecture, and JavaScript developer guide. You can execute with go run command experiments JS web server execute. Make sure the APIs all work using example scripts in examples. All right. The server is running on port 8080. So now I hope that it's going to do a bunch of calls to load the JavaScript and then hit it with curl or something like that and see where we get at. So loading these two documents puts us as 20% of tokens already right from the get-go, which is something to be aware of. And I saw that there's like a JavaScript API .md, which I guess is good to know. This is old code. Yeah. So once the API is finished, we're going to update this document to be a proper API documentation. All right, so it's going to do curl health, and we're going to say like, okay, yeah, you're allowed to do a sleep and a curl, but it's running like I told it that it is running the software. So, so here we're actually going to just like remove the breakpoints. All right, so it was able to load those, and so now basically I let it like, please test this stuff. All right, so it seems that there's like some JSON parsing issues. I'm going to let it finish its run, and then basically have it write me a report of the things that were not working, so that since I think I'm going to stop the stream like fairly early tonight, because I realize my brain's not working right, that will give me a starting point for tomorrow at breakfast, where I'll have my course about Goja. I'll have like a nicely laid out thing of the things that work and those that don't work. And maybe it's going to be able to fix it, right? Like we'll see, because it's not running the thing itself. We might have to stop the thing running in a debugger. So I think this is running like a sub agent that's doing the research, right? And so this will save on like context window, because it will only return the stuff that's relevant, not the result of searching everything. So interesting. So there's something in the express request that might not be working. And as we know, this might be some, uppercase, lowercase kind of nonsense. And so it's killing the server, which we might as well do over here. It's okay. It was killed. This was the output. Oh, this like, see how I can't copy paste the two? That's so annoying. All right. Oh my God. See, oh, this is so annoying. I can't copy paste out of this debug console. The debugger in VS Code is so shit. I hate it so much. Oh my God. Yeah, I'm irritable. I'm tired. I think it was too much code today. How much, what are my stats? my stats are important. AMP code, sign in, continue with Google. It's not that much today, huh? 8K. I think mostly we were doing like debugging today, so less code being written. Yeah, because I suspect it's some kind of like uppercase, lowercase capitalization of the field mappers. So let's quickly take a stop, because that might be right. Like the LLM did the error once, which means it's totally possible they will do it again. And also it's totally possible they will just like not understand what's going on. So where is our mapper being registered? That's the thing. Do you guys remember where that was? The mapper, set field mapper. So that's for the whole runtime. And then if we go to handlers and we go to the request object, we have URL body. And the code that it executed over here was request.body. All right. So where's the body set? It's set nowhere. Wait, why is this not being set? Why is this not being referenced anywhere? Is this being referenced anywhere? No, so we do have like some kind of weird go restart language server. Will that help? What's going on? Why is this only referenced one? That doesn't make sense. Weird things are happening. Response object. Create express response. Create express request. Oh, so what is this response object? This is the legacy stuff, huh? Goodbye. Request object. Goodbye. Response cookie. Goodbye. See, this is the issue of like piling stuff on, is like LLMs are not that great at cleaning up after themselves. And this might be one of the reasons why. In the express request here, we do have the body, and the body is set over there in the request. So we might as well kind of debug that part, right? So what we can do is we can ask it to add some more debug logging to the handlers here, to the create express request object and create express response log. So add logging to the creation of the request response objects in handlers.go, and then try again, right? And so this is kind of the nice thing of having agents, even though it's like hard to give them the logs of a long-running server, because it's going to be logging all of this nonsense at the start every time that it starts the server. So having an MCP call that's like maybe that's actually something I should try right now, is like have the thing that I debug in output its logs to a file as well, and then tell the model that it should oh my god, it should tail from that log file, right? So that will make it easier for it to not overload its context window, and also make it easy to not run the binary by itself and just say like, oh yeah, it's running in the background. Like you just do your thing. What? No, Go has Mint built in now. It's gonna run it by itself. Let's have it do it. So yeah, it's weird. It's like not. Why don't I see the output of this? Okay. Yeah, this is not great. Yeah, it's like losing its noodles. I will run the server and give you the logs. Just ask me when you need them, right? And LSOF who's running on port 8080. It's a JS web server. Do you want to kill it? Yes. Goodbye. Is it still running? No. Great little tool. I love it. I'm building so many little terminal UI tools these days. Execute the... No, you can execute the script. I will give you the logs. Actually, let's go at the launch JSON. The thing is that when I add the log file, then you can execute the scripts. The logs are in temp.js web server log. So we're going to restart the server, which now should not be outputting anything. Oh, it doesn't have log file. God damn it. I know how to fix it, but also I don't. Main.go. Is this Cobra? Yeah. All right, so init logger from Viper. And then logging, add logging layer to root command. Oh, it actually already does that. Okay, cool. So now it should have log level. And then I should remove that. Set up logging. Cobra root command. Where are you? And yeah, here it does set up logging, which I think can go away. And let's see if we have init Viper somewhere. Init Viper, and then here we have logging, init logging from Viper. All right, cool. So we are in the JavaScript part and we set this up. And this is persistent pre-run. Init Viper. So now we should have our log file flags. That was just me like loading some of my framework stuff. And so now we have it in the, we have that flag. And actually why? Because it doesn't print it out to std out anymore. And that might be a cool feature to have. So maybe I should build that while we're at it. Because if I go into init Viper and we go to add logging layer, and the new logging layer is this. And so it has logstash, logs, log file, default stdr. We could actually also have because this is the layer, right? So we're going to add folder to workspace. I'm going to go into glazed, which we now have in here. So I think mcode is going to get confused if I give it a second folder. However, cursor can deal with it. So we're going to say is add a flag to output. How should we do that? What's the best way to say, oh, please still output to stderr? Log format, log file, set config file. What is this? Init logger with config, init logger from settings, file logger, logstash. Okay, so we're going to say add a flag to output logs to std out, even if log file is set in layer.go and init.go. Yeah, I think that should be enough. It has no concept of how my framework works, but I think just like copy pasting from the environment should be doing well enough. If not, I'll have to like give it a little bit more info. Oh, there's already a comment to do comment. That's funny. The way I do it, especially with LLMs, right? Like it's so cheap to add a feature. It's almost cheaper than working around it. That as I build stuff, I just like my frameworks expand. So I've been doing this for like 2-3 years now, where even in the early days, it was like easy to use GPT 3.5 to just like add features here and there. So it's funny because there was this multi-writer thing, right? Which is interesting. So it seems that I've already been there. And then when I was building UI thingies, it was like not working very well. And now that's what I was expecting is like, it's done its job. And then Sonnet's going to be like, why don't I do more? But in this case, it hasn't. So that's good. Well, it's still generating. Okay, so it's done. Cool, because now what I can do is I can go back to launch JSON and I can be, log to std out, right? So I'll see if that works. And then if that works, before we continue, I will commit this in this third-party library, right? So no, I don't want to stop it. All right, let's go. Debug console. So now it's logging here, but it's also, I think, logging in temp.js web server log, right? Okay, so cool. So what I'm going to do now is, before I forget, I'm going to go to glazed. I'm going to look at what I changed here. looks like I already changed quite a few other things that I didn't commit, and I have no idea what it was about. What is Prompto glazed using commands even about? Glaze help using commands. Okay. So that's old. So add command loaders docs. Where are we at? Okay, so I was just cleaning up some logs, some docs, so that's good. So art, remove duplicate and obsolete, create command. Oops. Oh my god. Command tutorial and use the glaze help for the Prompto. Okay, we're gonna stash the rest. We're gonna create a pull request and we're gonna say add some docs and clean up. I can tell I'm tired because I'm making these weird typos, which is when my fingers linger too long on a key, which means I'm just like physically tired as well. And it wasn't able to generate like a good pull request description, which happens at times. Now it's able to create one. All right, so we created a pull request. We're going to push it to my branch. It's going to do all kinds of linting and testing before it pushes. But this is a good close to the whole thing. It's like we added a feature to Glazed. And while this is running, I guess we can have mcode continue, right? We can tell it like, oh, it's in temp.js web server log now. So let's see. Is it still here? Test MCP.js server here, and we're going to remove the second folder from the workspace because that I found has a tendency to really confuse mcode. You can execute the scripts. The logs are in temp.js web server log. The server is running and just got restarted. Okay. So is this working? What is it doing? Okay. See, now it's doing that, but sadly I can't like allow this to always work. I have to approve it every time. So now it's able to debug itself, right? Which is great. So our job here is done. Oh my God. I want my 4K monitor. So we have our pull request. Gonna let this cook. What else do we have here? We're gonna go to main. We're gonna rebase on main. Is already used by work tree over there. What the fuck is workspace Geppetto glazed pocket flow? Holy shit. Okay. What should I do? Remove the existing if you no longer need it. Okay. Get work tree list. Remove, and then what do I call it? This? So there's nothing in here anymore. Okay. All right, unmerged path. Go mod tidy. And then we're going to make a task add log to std out flag. Git add go sum. Git stat. All right. Git check out add log to std. And then we're going to do sparkles add log to std out flag to log layer. What's up with the linting? All right, the merging is blocked. No, it's not. One day I'll have to set up my my freaking signing secret. It's been like 5 years that I haven't installed it. All right. Well, we haven't killed MCP, didn't we? Well, I think we did actually. We made some good progress for the state I'm in terms of polishing our JavaScript API. So add log to std out. The fix should now properly restore the body. Please stop the server and restart it with the fixed version. Yes. And yes, we're going to create a pull request on Glazed. Here, this guy has fixed the code, so we're going to restart. And here, we're going to edit this. Since there is so much slop. Yeah, you need to load the JavaScript first. Load the JavaScript first. Cool. So what did it fix? It read the body. The request logger reads the body but does not restore it like the extract request body function does. I need to fix this by restoring the body after reading it with the knopped closer, right? Sorry, with the new buffer. So that's cool. So it's continuing to test stuff now, which is great. So it's loading some more code, and it's just basically going through all my test scripts and like testing them out, which is fantastic, because that is kind of a good way to validate, like, say your or even like your tutorials or all of those things, like being able to just have, if the LLM is able by reading the tutorial to make it work, then things work. So here it's finding some other issues. So update the user's JavaScript to create the schema and populate it if it is not present. In the meantime, we have a pull request here, which is still running its code analysis. And if we go to MCP, we now have like a fix to commit, right? So we're going to add command and we're going to say, oh shit, it reset this. And what should I not do? Git add command. Yeah, it's these two guys, right? So ambulance fix body parsing reading populated if it is not present. Okay, cool. We'll fix the linting all at once at the end. So now we can merge this dude. Is it okay? Files change 17 lines. Yes. Delete branch. And we might go to glazed and pull rebase main and get it there. And then maybe even make a new release. Actually, how long has it been since the last release here? It's been a minute, huh? 548. What has happened here? There's new documentation. There is some dependency bumping. And there's the new log to std out. Okay, so just release that. And make install, so I have it locally. Okay, so now it's going to be doing some interesting things. Because now it's going to be looking at the logs, I think, to do its job. All of this is very exciting, these agents. And it's not using many tokens either. Cool. Oh. Cool, so it's testing authentication. Okay. So I'm telling it where the SQLite database is, because that will allow it to like debug the database itself a little bit as well. It seems to be stuck a little bit in a loop here. That is a weird loop that it's doing here. Also, it's like setting a panic in here. So what I'm going to have it do is I'm going to have it write a full document with the current status of the investigations and have it see what it does there, right? So what did it change here? Okay, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to say write ttemp 250529 full log, full report on testing and fixing the JS web server and next steps.md, which contains a full report on the investigations and tests and fixes you did, how your methodology, how to use the same approach to test things, what currently outstanding issues are, and what the next steps should be for a new developer to the project to get going immediately. Point them towards function names and file names and explain the bigger picture as well. Be thorough and detailed. I should make this a reusable prompt, and then I never do. I already did it like a couple of times, and I don't know what I need to do there. Probably like a little VS Code plugin that allows me to quickly reference all my promptos and stuff. Actually, that's not the worst idea. All right, and this document will basically be where we're gonna start next time. So I guess we haven't killed MCP today, huh? But we did clean up this mess that I actually vibe coded without even looking at it, and starting to turn it into something a little bit more understandable. The other thing we can look at is like looking at this course that it generated, right? About that I'm going to read tomorrow. So if you click on here, you can get a PDF version of it, which, no, that's not it. Where's the PDF? It's still rendering. There we go. So now I have a 39 pages kind of thing going and running JavaScript in Goja lab, your first running script. Cool, basic calculator script, executing scripts, JavaScript versus Go types. Then there's like little examples, error handling, lab evaluating, passing data between Go and JavaScript. And I kind of want to have like a full section about the internals as well. Implementing a custom JS console, calling JavaScript functions from Go. And I'm sure most of this is probably correct. Wouldn't put I wouldn't put my hand into fire on that. But is that an English expression? It's a French expression, I think. Managing execution state, lab multi-script and module loading. Yeah, those are interesting parts, to be honest. Asynchronous patterns and concurrency control, that's like less interesting. Okay, so that's a good point to stop. We had Amcode write a report, which it's still writing. That's cool. That seems pretty thorough. Holy shit, how long is it writing? So what does this code look like over here? Because we have command, experiments, JS web server. Yeah, there's like a lot that's been cleaned up. And then there's a lot of like this little test shit that it keeps adding, right? Which we'll have to kind of contain in some way. We can delete the data SQLite. And then we have, yeah, so I think the next thing is probably going to be the middlewares, right? And app.use or app require auth. Yeah, those are going to be interesting to see how that stuff works. And it's going to be for next time. All right, so it finished the report, which I guess looks pretty extensive. Yeah, I love this stuff. Because tomorrow I can just point it at that and say, like, please continue. In a new session, right? Next steps. So JavaScript, best handling, outstanding issues, practical patterns, user creation issue. Files to examine, authentication profile endpoint, middleware execution order. Okay, so that's all pretty good. That's some good next steps, right? And then we're here. We're just gonna add ttemp, and then we're going to say we're gonna add the other experiments, JS web server, all the JavaScript in there as well. Even though it's probably going to be something that I'm gonna kill later on. What is in scripts? Okay. All right. All right, write up the investigation and next steps. And then I'm just going to push that to the experiment MCP.js server branch. And then that's going to be it for today.